I'm Kortney Wilson, and this is the Shit Stick of Life podcast. Y'all, I just had a conversation with an Indigenous trans woman, a 60s Scoop survivor, which we're going to get to that because I didn't fully understand what that was until this interview, and the second oldest competitor of Drag Race. She is unbelievable. I was mostly inspired and surprised by her positivity, her outlook on life. She is sober and, man, she is fully present and ready to tell her story. Without further ado, please listen to my conversation with Jaylene Tyme. Miss Jaylene Tyme, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
You have such a story that's deep and wide. I don't even know where to start. You are a Vancouver-based trans woman, second oldest on Drag Race ever. Where do we start? Let's go back to your childhood so that people get kind of an idea of who you are.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I like to share when I introduce myself is that I am an Indigenous, two-spirit, transgender human being. And I think that's important to say, and I kind of say it all out like that because I feel that it's important that people see me. And most importantly, for the people that are looking to find out where they fit in.
I love that. Now let's even dig a little deeper. What does it mean to be two-spirit?
Well, two-spirit is something that is Indigenous specific, and it is a real way to connect to culture, but also a way to celebrate and take ownership of the power of energy, masculine and feminine.
Did you grow up knowing you were two-spirit because of your family, or was that something you adopted later in life?
It was later. I'm a 60s Scoop adoptee, so I was raised by a settler family, so removed from my Indigenous home. So I didn't have any sort of understanding of what real culture was. I was just kind of planted into a family, lovely family.
So you're adopted.
Yes.
And when we say 60 Scoop, because I had heard that term so many times, and when I had you on, I was like, I really have to Google this. But in your own words, can you tell us and educate everyone, and what does it mean to be a 60 Scoop baby?
Yeah. Well, for me now that, in retrospect, when I think about having a lived experience of being able to understand it fully, I think I can say that it's truly a time when children were a lot of times through agencies, part of colonization, and also in tandem with the residential schools, in a sense, to get the Indian out of the people. That's really sort of what it is. And
so they took Indigenous children and removed them from their biological families into white households?
Well, yeah, and there's many different reasons, but I think that the gist of it is removing Indigenous children into settler homes and having them be raised by a white family. But I think the big thing to pay attention to is the fact that those families were encouraged to just raise them as their own and not to immerse them in their own culture. So that's kind of the thing that had the biggest impact, I think.
As an adoptive mother to a child that's Black, I often think about how I would have raised her 20 or 30 years ago versus today. And sometimes education is key. Sometimes, our parents just didn't know. And of course we are embracing her culture in really as many ways as I can, and I'm probably still falling short. So do you have a relationship with your adoptive family?
I do. And I think something that has been always really important to me to mention is that I actually believe that I'm alive because of them.
Wow.
Because of the history of my family was, now that I have access towards that, it was really devastating. So the history of a land being taken away and rights being taken away. And for example, my grandfather was given $500 to give up his treaty rights and to start a life with his family of 5. So
and this was back in the 50s or 60s?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So did you have biological siblings?
I did. Yeah. Actually, I was in 5 homes before I was the age of 4.
Oh my gosh. So you weren't adopted to one family as a baby?
No. I was actually removed through situation where there was domestic violence and there was a real challenge in the home. So I was removed, and my brother and I were together. He stayed with relatives. So when I was 3 and he was 4, we were separated. And so they adopted me out and he went to relatives. So my uncle, who I'm in contact with now, said just one day I wasn't there anymore. And so I think about that little boy, right? That was like that, their siblings, probably just the 2 of them. And I remember I talked to him like 20 years later on the phone, and he said he used to take care of me because, and I was thinking how beautiful that was, but also that, and he's no longer here now. So the thing about it is I just thought about him as a little child, and then your sibling that you kind of protected just was gone. And so over the years for myself, I was so grateful to be raised by lovely people and to be in a family that really gave me that security, that safety, and that understanding that, have a roof over my head and food in my stomach. But when I left, there still was this disconnect. I just didn't fit in anywhere.
At what point did you feel that shift? I always say this is the Shit Stick of Life podcast. What was the pinnacle of your shit stick story?
Well, I've been asked that before, saying that, because for myself, I'm in my 27th year of sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's been a journey of healing. And I know somebody asked me, they said, oh, your addiction must have been a really dark time in your life. And for me, it wasn't, because I was part of the street community. And at that time, when you are part of that, there's pockets of people that support each other. So if you don't have nowhere to sleep, somebody will find somewhere for you. If you have nothing to eat, someone will find something for you to eat. Like, they really take care of each other. The darkest time for me was coming into a world that didn't accept me on any level. So I was an Indigenous, but I was really when I was young, there was no definition towards the gender diversity. It was you're either a boy or a girl, and this is what you do. And if you stray from that, there's going to be trouble.
Jaylene, it still feels like that in some ways, right? We've come so far, and yet it feels like every day we may be taking a step backwards.
It feels like that for sure.
Does it with the political climate the way that it is, obviously you spend the majority of your time in Canada, but you know what's going on south of the border. And I can tell you that, I have friends that may listen to this, though I am fairly liberal and I've exposed my children to everything. I was just telling you before we did this, we went to Thailand, and when they were little kids, I took them to a ladyboy show, and they've been exposed to drag their whole lives. They have trans friends, but I will have friends that roll their eyes and somewhat agree with the way that we're rolling things back. So that must make you, I know how it makes me feel, it must make you incredibly sad because you found your place at some point.
Yes. Well, I think the most important emotion to recognize with all of this, it's more frustrated, but I do actually also shift to a place to realize that we have worked really hard to create environments that are brave for people to be able to find out who they are and to explore what that looks like and to create a strength within them. This is literally, we have saved lives connecting together because the world was set up for a lot of us where we didn't have the support. And in my generation, growing up in the 70s and 80s, if you came out as gay, your family would disown you a lot of times. So you had to leave. So I remember I felt like a plant that was taken out of the pot, and I had to go and replant it.
When did you feel that way? When did that happen for you?
Well, right after high school, I just knew something was waiting for me. And I was like, okay, I just got to go find something. I don't know what, but I know there's something waiting for me.
At what age did you identify as trans?
Probably in my, that's an interesting question because as soon as I went to the city, I met some friends, and I had been putting on makeup since I was little in private. And just feeling like that feminine, like Barbies and that kind of thing as far as I can remember.
I was Barbie, by the way.
Yeah.
In the commercials.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness.
I was
love
living
that.
your dream.
Oh my, yes. I love it. Well, I ended up kind of being Barbie on TV. So that was kind of fun,
exactly.
right?
Okay, now you're living my dream.
So
Okay.
it is that. But I think when I went into drag and onto the stage and felt that feminine energy, I couldn't explain it, but I felt right. Being feminine, the feathers, the sparkles, all that stuff felt right. And so, but the thing about, for me, is as a young person, I had no real concept of what intimacy was. Mm-hmm. So I ended up exploring my sexuality and my gender through the sex trade, because it was like there wasn't really any direction other than like I was in the club scene. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't really have a job, and I just was with, the party scene, and that leads to like drinking and drugs. And then it was like everything's kind of tied together, and I had to support myself. So I think I started like just realizing that, wait a second, when I actually present as a female, I'm treated differently. And so I started to see that, but also feel it that, I'm not supposed to do this.
It still felt wrong to
yeah.
you?
I mean, this is the thing. It's like a program. Like your program, like this is what society thinks you should be. And if you're anything else, it's a battle. It's a pull. And it's really hard to shift through that and be able to feel confident to be yourself. This is what I think is the biggest thing for kids. And this is what I really try to do today. I call myself a surthriver and a stigma buster.
A surthriver?
Yes.
I love that name. Okay.
Because I want to create a space to where people can have conversations that aren't limited by judgment of anybody else, but just a question you truly have.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'm going to open myself up to a lot of criticism by saying this, but I'm wanting to educate myself. So my daughter went to a really super liberal school. It was actually, is sometimes referred to as the trans school. My daughter's not trans, but we went there for diversity. I really believe that that's really healthy. Ultimately, we had to leave because we didn't have a whole lot of diversity. We had no Black kids by the time we left. And also nobody in her class that was born female that still identified as female. So she also felt like she didn't have, girly girlfriends. Do you feel when people say it's gone too far, do you feel like there's anything to that? Or do you think we're just in a situation where we're like, the pendulum has moved in the right direction and we're not caught up yet?
That's a really important and great question, because I actually feel that the most important thing that we can teach our youth is to have the agency and the ability to experience and explore different people, different environments, and choose where they feel the best. I think it's even better if people say it's gone too far. It's so great to see different variety out in the world. I didn't see anything. It was so controlled.
Yeah. I actually really love that, because like I had moments where, my daughter would get into the car and we would have, 5 kids coming home to our house for the night or whatever. And I would be like, okay, like Lennox texts me everyone's pronouns before they get in the car. And often those pronouns had changed from, maybe the month before. So as a mom who was trying to figure it out, because I was all for respecting what their pronouns were, that's why I was asking, even though I'm not as always great and keeping it right, I was trying. And then one day I had a conversation with actually a friend who she and her wife were actually at our wedding, and we were in a pool, and I was like, has it gone too far? Somebody pushed me on it and said, aren't you worried for Lennox? And I was like, well, I'm not worried for Lennox in any way that she's unsafe. If anything, it's the opposite. Because all of these kids are able to express themselves. And it makes me sad when people suggest that I should be worried for her because a child identifies as they, them. Like that's somehow putting my daughter in harm's way. However, I did challenge myself on like, do they know at, 13 if they're trans?
Well, I think it's like we'll provide an environment for them to find out.
Yeah.
And, I know you mentioned about them, it changing. It's like, well, we should be able to feel that we can explore.
I mean, I changed my hair color.
Yeah.
I changed the way, the style. I changed lots of different things. So you can't put everything into one.
Yeah.
Now they're not doing that as much. They're changing their pronouns. Well, okay.
It's a different language. And I think if you got such a structured language and definition of things, and it's a routine.
Yeah.
It's like something that is that
What do you think the fear is when somebody challenges me on that?
Well, I just feel that it's I don't know actually.
I don't know what that is,
but what I do know is that when I think about showing up in the world today, being grateful to walk this earth, knowing that I am sober, knowing that I feel confident to reveal my best self, and to just know that that is the best thing for me. And I get to really respond to a bunch of people who reach out to me and say, thank you for being you. And seeing you on Drag Race was so amazing.
Let's talk about Drag Race.
So we're going in the right direction.
We are. You're right. We are. And we need to keep pushing. And sometimes I feel like my hands are up in the air going, oh my gosh, I can't go to another rally and I can't go to another thing. I can't have another conversation with you about judging me that my kids were at a Ladyboy show. But we really do have to keep pushing through. Let's talk about Drag Race. How did that come to be?
Well, it's a dream come true. Like for me as a drag performer, and like I mentioned, as a child, I used to do makeup in the mirror and look at fashion magazines and draw them and just be so excited by the beauty and fashion and transformation.
Yeah.
And so I've been a drag performer for now 33 years. So I started as a young person, and just the actual artistry and as an artist myself, it's been exciting, and it helped me actually realize who I am as a person, expressing myself in a real true form, a powerful form, through music, through art. Like everything is layered in such, you foster growth as you explore, what makes your heart sing. And so I've been doing drag for a long time, and part of the community. I've been an ambassador for international councils that work to create environments of pathways for access to healthcare, to support for gender-affirming care, all these things for years. And I'm a performer still to this day.
Do you think you'll ever not be a performer?
I don't think so, no. And I think for Drag Race,
because you're the second oldest. Yeah. And does a trans drag woman tell her age?
Well, yeah, no, I'm 53. So I'm going to be 54 this year.
54. Okay, so you're the second oldest in Drag Race history on, every country.
Yeah, as a contestant on the show. So there's Kitten Caboodle, who I think she was 57, and I was 52 when I was on the show.
Okay, and they refer to you, I wrote this down here, as the mother.
Yes, yes, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, you should be proud of it. Yeah. Okay, so what's your wildest story that didn't ever make TV from Drag Race?
Well, for Drag Race, just to mention too, so for myself, being a performer for that long, I just kept putting my quarter in the machine.
Okay,
I'm
to apply?
To apply.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not going to know, and I can't complain.
Is it a video
if I don't
that you do?
Well, you have to do a whole process. So it's like an application and a video. And you just apply, and it's like literally like casino. Put it in, and I just did it every year. And then this year was a year that I saw. Last year there was a couple of trans contestants on there, and also a different generation of drag on there.
Because being trans and drag are not hand in hand.
No,
they're not even close to hand in hand. So you happen to be both.
They can be, but they don't have to be.
They don't have to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there ever any straight men that do drag? Yeah. Right. Yeah. On occasion.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not that a lot that I know of, but I think that it is an art form that definitely, it
attracts all kinds.
Actually, it's expanding more now too.
Really? Have you ever been to Nashville?
No, I haven't. But I do want to go to Dollywood.
Oh, well, I have lots of Dolly stories I can tell you after we stop rolling. But we have actually a drag bus downtown, and it's so fun. I've been actually a couple of times. Okay, so I want to hear a little bit more about this spirit, the two spirit stuff, and the healing circles that you're doing, because I read that you're going into like maximum security prisons. And doing healing circles. Yeah,
well, my story and how I show up in the world it's with intention. So I show up, I lead with gratitude. I start my day. My Indigenous name is Good Morning Woman. and butterfly woman.
Was that given to you at birth?
No. This was given to me recently, actually. This was by like a relative of mine, a two-spirit relative, and we did ceremony, and I was given those names. But what I do is I show up in the way that I can, and I'm available. So when anybody reaches out for support or for guidance, I do my best to show up. And one of the things, I had a friend that was working in federal corrections, and they invited me to be part of their Pride event, the first ever they had in Canada. And so I went, and I was like, I actually find it really interesting to mention that, there are so many Indigenous people incarcerated. So the fact that when I was invited in there, I felt like really like at home, which is like an intergenerational energy. So I felt like the thing about it when I go in and I spend time with people that are there, I'm just so grateful that we sit in a circle and we're able to share freely. Like I say, a stigma buster is we have conversations that are truthful and that matter. And I always feel like when we talk about the building being called corrections, it's like, how can somebody make decisions for themselves if they don't feel seen, heard, and valued?
Yeah. How can they?
So I feel that if we sit there and we talk and we explore what the spectrum of gender identity looks like, we have some talks on that they lead when they feel safe and brave to be able to share, some of the things that they've, that their
and
healing
you bring
journey.
that safe environment to them.
I bring myself
in a very in a very unsafe environment.
Well, I actually feel that it is a safe environment. It is. We talk about every child matters. And we talk about who let those children down. So I'm thinking like, we don't know the stories of these people. So for me, my position in going and sitting in conversation isn't about what brought them there, but it's that they're a human being and that we sit together to explore what a healing journey looks like and to really hope that they can define who they are maybe for the first time and realize that, one day at a time, we can really connect and learn something about ourselves. And I want to say something here. I'm being called to say this. When I was a young person, I used to make decisions as a direct result of how I felt about myself, which was to escape and to use drugs and to put myself in unsafe situations. And I did that. I didn't really have any fear. I just did my thing. I didn't really care about myself. I wasn't taught to value myself. Today, I make my decisions as a direct result of how I feel about myself. Very different.
I love that. Jaylene, I honestly love that because that says a lot about, right now I'm actually, the director of our show has directed a lot of the intervention shows. And so I'm binge watching a ton of intervention. And there is a common denominator in that they don't value themselves. They don't, they haven't given space to their story. They haven't given space to process or heal. And so their decisions are frailing. And so I absolutely love that that's how you lead.
Well, and I think about it, I'll say this word right now, the developmental period for a child is like the formative years are in their first 4 years of life. Now, if they don't have the basic needs of being, having the proper nourishment, the proper,
emotional
support.
Yeah.
And if they've been like, I'm at a loss for words now.
Well, I mean, if they've been abused in any way, if they've been stunted in any way, I think I agree with you. I think many children who have not had that even extend a period, we often say that kids are stunted at the growth that they experience trauma. And there's a lot of research for that. So if they're abused at a certain age, they're emotionally stunted at that age. And it's really hard to get past that because you have to push past all of that trauma. And some of that trauma you didn't even know you had because you were so young.
Yeah, well, this is the thing too. Part of my work is I work with the Two Spirit program with research and really encouraging that to be authentic for the people, like nothing about us without us. And so thinking about talking about gender-based violence recently, it was just Two Spirit Day on March 20th. And for myself, it's like exploring it and realizing when you're young and you just experience different situations in an abuse situations, you just kind of think that's normal. So you just kind of get on with it and you move along. And for a lot of people, they just, they don't realize life could be better.
Well, and then once they do realize that they're already incarcerated and...
Well, or just living a life of that is not happy at all and just realizing that there's a weight on them they didn't even realize they didn't have to have. And so I feel like...
Do you ever feel like if you didn't find drag or if you didn't find something in the arts that really, you know, spoke to you, that you would have gone down a different road?
No,
a dangerous
I did.
path.
I did go down that road,
Yeah,
and
you
I
did.
actually feel like if I didn't actually find my culture, if I wasn't able to reclaim the power of honoring me as an Indigenous person, that I feel if I hadn't been able to find that, I feel I don't know where it would be.
When did you find that? At what age?
Well, I knew, like I was told I was Native. I just didn't have any access to any of the files or anything like that. Because when you're adopted, it's all sealed. And so I just didn't have any community really to kind of explore that. So it wasn't until like, you know, I was, you know, my late 20s that I really connected with other Indigenous people. But I still didn't know where it was from. And I still didn't know exactly, you know, I couldn't identify my ancestral territory or actually what I was. You know, I was...
So what was that moment, that defining moment for you that shifted your life?
Oh, well, I got a phone call from a man that used to babysit me in recovery, and he told me that my brother passed away, and he was in custody when he passed away. And I just felt like probably the deepest pain from my core. Like I didn't even know this person really, but as a child, we were together, and we were like a unit. And it was taken from me. So I really believe that there's this, he's part of me. Like this is the thing that how it leads me a lot of my strength today. It's like we talk about like intergenerational trauma through generations, but there's also strength through generations. And I feel that, I could feel that connection.
That's good.
With him. And I felt this whole...
Did you feel that connection with him because he had passed, like in that moment?
I couldn't explain it because it wasn't anything I chose. It was a physical reaction to the loss of something. Maybe if liken it to like a twin, you know, like if there's something that is like literally it's part of you, and I felt it, and then I kind of reached out. And I looked to the community and become part of a Two-Spirit organization that was doing fundraising. And they created this organization that helped people that came from the reserves to the city. And in his honor, I kind of just explored what that looked like. And then I got involved. And that started my real journey of just being like, okay, I really feel that there's something really important for me that I'm not, I don't have. And so I set on this journey to find out what that was.
Gosh, I love you. I feel like we'd be friends if I lived here. Okay, I have some questions from some followers that I put out on Instagram. This is actually cute. How much do your dresses cost?
Well, that has changed.
Okay.
It started off because I'm like a creative gal, so I like to get into a tickle trunk and make things work. I used to look at fashion magazines and just create looks. And I have that ability, like that's one of the gifts. But so it started off where you get stuff everywhere from like the dress shops, the thrift stores, stuff like that. So that used to be maybe a couple $100, you'd have an amazing outfit.
Wow.
You know, you could really pull it together.
Man, I like that.
But now, but you have custom designers.
Your tastes have like skyrocketed.
Well, you have custom designers, so you're looking at probably like $2,000 to $5,000.
When you're on Drag Race, do they give you like a budget for all that?
No.
Really?
No. You create your collaborations with artists, and you know everyone's pretty good to kind of just you can do a little payment plan and things like that. But I mean, tell you, this is your one chance. You got to get out there and do.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
Yeah. I've had friends that have been on The Bachelor, and they were like, they have to really invest in their wardrobe before they go because they don't know how long they're going to be on the show.
Well, and also too, there's certain things for like when you're on TV that can't have logos on it and stuff.
Yeah.
They're really specific on what you.
Oh
what
yeah,
you
they're very specific. Okay. This is a little sad. It says 17-year-old female identifying as male. Parents have recently disowned me. How do I get support?
Well, this is the thing. I think social media can be a great thing and it can be really challenging. But for myself, I foster and curate a social media one with care. And I say to a lot of people, if you see somebody and you see their story, there's so much content out there of people that I'm so grateful that they feel the courage to share their story. And sometimes it's about full transition. It's everything. If you feel like really drawn to that person, choose the people that you follow.
So you're suggesting reach out to somebody who feels like a safe place.
Yes.
For you to explore that.
Yeah. And you know how you mentioned things feel like they're going backwards?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of work done and a lot of resources created. Thousands of people who have found their freedom.
Well, and the upside to things going backwards, if there's an upside, Lord knows, might eat my words on this, but it's that, you know, your true allies are rising. You know, and you're now able to, I had so many friends post this week, about trans awareness because something was going on in the US, probably here too. But, and I was like, what's going on? But you all of a sudden know where everyone stands. So that's kind of, you know, the upside. Okay. There are a couple of negative things that I saw, and I usually don't give much attention to the negative ones, but I also feel like it's a way to educate. So this one said, and all the comments said why are they so over the top? And I'm saying it in the way that I feel that they would have said it.
Yeah.
Because that's all it said. And it made me angry. Does it make you feel any which way?
Oh, no. I always say that if you feel way too fabulous for your own good, you should probably do drag. I mean, how many people were told that they're too much?
Yeah.
I think if you could talk to the leaders of the world, they probably were told that they were too much.
Yeah.
Or talk about like amazing like authors who are leading real journeys of connection for people. They're probably told they're too much.
Yeah.
Musicians, dancers,
I was a dancer
actors.
growing up. My costumes were way over the
Too
top.
much.
Okay. And this one is infuriating, but again, I'll say it. Why are drag queens doing events where kids are attending? I have had my kids around a lot of drag queens. We were also on the cover of Out and About magazine because we went to Pride every year with our kids and dressed up in tutus and did the whole thing and boas galore. I also wouldn't take my kids to certain places. Like I wouldn't take them to a strip club, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take them, like there's certain age appropriate things.
Yeah.
But how would you answer that?
Well, it just seems to me like art takes many different, there's different styles. So like there's different kinds of dancers.
Yes,
There's
exactly.
Like, there's exotic dancers.
Like there's strippers
yeah.
and exotic dancers,
Yeah.
and then there was me.
I mean, there's different drag too. There's some drag that maybe kids, maybe
Shouldn't
it's more
see.
of a nighttime thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's fine, but that's just like any art form. It's like when you watch TV and there's an R rating. You think
Yes.
about it whether or not you
You might
check
not
the
let
content.
your 4-year-old watch that,
I'd say
but
maybe not now. But I think drag in the general is like if you go to the places, then they haven't been to a drag show that's been like all ages. And I think that one of the things is it is an example of somebody expressing their truth in an art form that brings them joy from their heart.
Agreed. I just can't. I have not connected why people are so scared of that, and what they think it's going to do to their children. Bringing my kids around drag or around my friends who are part of the LGBTQ plus community their whole lives didn't make them gay. And if they were gay, there would be zero problem in my household. But I think it's their own fear. And I have some sympathy because a lot of people, especially living in the South, grew up a certain way and they've got to break those chains, break out of those chains. And in a world where it's so divisive right now, I'm still holding space for those people to come to their own realizations. Okay. I have some rapid fire questions. Your go-to drag song?
If I could turn back time.
Oh, if I could turn back time. Okay, I love it. Heels or flats?
Flats in the day, heels at night.
You're wearing the cutest little flats. I actually just told her I want them. One thing you can't live without in your drag bag?
Eyelashes.
Favorite beauty product right now? Because I'm looking?
One Size Powder Foundation by Patrick Starr.
Dang, you just gave a nice little
I mean, it's
plug.
like,
I like it.
It's like a
And I'm gonna try
trans
it.
adjacent, lovely, amazing person who's created this line for all skin tones and all identities. And it's one size for everyone. And I love it.
Oh, I love that. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
How do you take it?
With it's really funny because we did this. Sorry, I don't want to go on too long about this, but we did this exercise in a gathering, and they're like, you had to do a little handle with care sort of thing that told you something about yourself. So if you give to somebody that didn't know you, and one of the things was how to make the perfect coffee or tea. And so for me, we just had this discussion. So it is just a splash of almond milk with 1/2 of a Splenda packet. And I really enjoy that.
Okay. I'm just double cream. That's it. Okay. Favorite way to unwind after a performance?
Well, to get all like the waist cincher and everything off, just take it all off.
Yeah, because it's not like super comfortable. It's not being comfortable being a woman.
All. It's not comfortable at all.
Okay, lifetime supply of wigs or shoes?
Wigs.
Is that a wig?
Yes.
I
Hello,
don't know.
everyone.
I don't know.
Wearing
It
a
looks
wig.
really good.
Thank you.
Looks better than my hair. So, best advice you've ever received?
Be you.
Be you. Guilty pleasure TV show. You can't say Drag Race.
No. Well, it is actually, but I think right now would be the White Lotus.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to be able to talk about it with you, but because I'm traveling right now and I'm filming in Toronto, I won't start it without my husband because I feel like, and I haven't seen any of it.
Oh.
And everyone's talking about this season right now, but I feel like I need to watch it with him. Okay.
That's sweet.
What's that?
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet, you know. If you could trade places with anyone for one day.
Ooh. That just brings like this big wave of emotion.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think, you know, I had the opportunity to meet my birth mother once, but I feel like I would just want to go in there and just be able to have a mirror so she could look and say, "You're so beautiful. You're so strong."
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Is she still living?
No.
She's not.
But I did meet her once and I had that connection with her. And I've studied now the history of her, and just to see her and what she had to endure and what she did for me. And what she, I just was like, I feel like if I could do that, that would be very special.
That's really good. I actually just listened to Oprah Winfrey's podcast with Maria Shriver. And she's written a book of poems. And they joked. I mean, Oprah was like, I can't believe my friend Maria has written poems. And she has everybody reading poems right now. But she said she had to go back to her younger self and forgive herself before she could forgive them because they didn't know. And that's how she was able to heal.
Well, if you sit and you put it in perspective and then you put it in its place, you're not holding on to it anymore. And you do that for the different impactful times throughout your life. And you just put it in perspective. And if you need to explore it further with help from like a therapist or some healing journey, then you do that. But then you put it where it needs to go. So what this does is
like compartmentalize it.
It clears you. It clears you. So then your healing, your teachings will come through a channel of understanding that is open, that is not clogged with a whole bunch of stuff that is weighing you down. And so I feel like that's sort of what I've been doing.
You've been doing the work, which is why you can be in a place where you're not angry and you're not as frustrated, and you're able to help others heal on their journey. That's what I'm gathering, because not everybody's done the work.
Well, I mean, they don't really even realize that they have to. This is the thing. We're trying to expose these different things about, you know, you don't have to live, there's a lot of things that we've accepted for far too long. Like we talk about, you know, the liberation of women and just the patriarchal world that we've been in and all that. It's like people just get used to what they're taught and they just accept it. And it's like now people are realizing, oh, no, your potential should be something that you choose, not anybody else. So we got to create these spaces that are truthful, that also allow people to really explore and see what's out in the world and grab onto stuff that feels good to them and just kind of go for that ride. That should be fun and that should be free.
Yeah, it should be fun. Do you have a favorite quote that you use in your everyday life?
Well, it's kind of one that I've felt, and I don't know if it's my quote or if it's just something I heard a long time ago, but I heard the power inside of you is to be you. And that's
power inside of you is to be you, but you have to find out who that is.
But that's up to you to choose.
You don't think innately it's just in you?
Well, this is the thing. It can be so much more than we even realize. This is the thing. As the times change, as technology changes, as art form expands, and all these different things, there's different ways that you can, learn more about of who you can be and what you want to be.
And we don't have to be who we were told we were.
Exactly.
Because we do have it. Like I grew up in a household where unintentionally we were labeled. And I say unintentionally because my parents were trying to do a good job by doing that. Their intention was good. And actually, it was actually in support. Like, you're a singer. I was very good at singing and you're going to get a record deal. And I did, but I didn't know any other label. I knew I was smart, but I wasn't told I was smart all the time. I was told I was pretty and I was told, I was going to be a singer. And I'm really careful with my kids to not do that. So when they say like, what do you think? I turn it right back and say, well, what do you think? Yeah. Tell me first, where's your heart? What are you feeling pulled to? And also this is a journey. You're not necessarily supposed to figure it out today. Be okay with that.
I think that one of the biggest messages I feel if I was a parent and I have like extended family, like drag kids and things like that. But if I had a child, I think the most important thing that I would instill in with them was to be mindful and kind. And just to think about, just to be aware that not everybody has like perhaps the ability to eat every day.
So on that note, it is, I say the greatest gift that I think I've given my kids is travel. Now travel costs money. So just by nature of what it was a privilege, but we traveled all over the world. And we didn't go to high-end resorts. And if we did, we got off the resort. When we went to Ethiopia, we went to the poorest part of, Entoto Mountain and we served. And so they know. So it's not just a reference. So like, do you know there are starving kids in, Africa? They've seen the starving kids in Africa. They've fed the starving kids in Africa. And do you, when they've had friends who are maybe not welcome in their own homes because of identity. Yeah. They know that they're welcome in our house.
Yeah.
And I wish more parents would lead with that with their children so that they don't feel like they're in a box when maybe they don't fit in the box.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things, speaking as a trans person, I think one of the things I hear a lot from our queer community is for our allies is the most important words that you can share are the ones that you share when we're not in the room that lift us up and support us. And that's something, and sometimes it's difficult. And sometimes it's relationships that, shift because you've taken a stand. Because
of what?
Because you've taken a stand.
Oh, taken a stance.
And we're not in the room, but somebody has a certain viewpoint about us that you don't agree with.
Oh, I love that.
And you're able to find that bravery to say,
yeah,
I don't agree with you.
I've almost gotten in a few fights.
Well,
but sometimes you got to say what you got to say.
Well, we have to. Our lives depend on it.
Well, I have to because I didn't know, where I would hope that if my child was of the queer community, that they would be supported in another household, that I wouldn't have to worry about their safety, that I wouldn't have to worry that they're being judged. Worse, that they're not being judged when they're not there.
Yeah.
Because that's the most dangerous.
Yeah.
In 50 years, when you're gone, what do you hope people say about you?
that I was brave, that I was kind,
Yeah.
that I was loving.
Well, to me, you are brave, loving, and kind. And I really appreciate you chatting with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaylene Tyme. Find new episodes of the Shit Stick of Life podcast every other Thursday. Follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.